Let me welcome you to the 41st lecture of NPTEL online certified course Drilling and Blasting Technology. In this course, in this lecture we will discuss about the cost analysis of drilling and blasting, but as we do in every lecture, let us retrospect so far what we have covered. So far our this course started with the understanding of rock formation and rock mass. Then we have discussed the drilling technology, how the drilling can be carried out in the rock mass, and after that we have discussed the what is explosive and what are the properties we look into an explosive. Then we have discussed how the explosive energy is utilized for fragmenting the rock in mining, and for different mining situation like underground mining, surface mining, in both the cases how the blasting has to be carried out, that is discussed. Theoretical blast design is also, theory part is also discussed, and after that we have also discussed the results of the blast for which we are interested, because this drilling and blasting course is for fragmenting the rock. So, this fragmentation is the main objective of the blasting. So, how the result of the blast are to be assessed, that is also discussed in the last few lectures. We have solved some numericals on this also. We will continue with that. In last class we have discussed about how the number of machines, number of explosive requirements, all those things will be estimated in drilling and blasting. Those are discussed in last few lectures. We will continue with that in this lecture. In this lecture we will understand how to analyze the costing, because costing is very important. So, cost analysis has significant impact on the choice of technology. So, we have to find out that the way we are carrying out drilling and blasting, how much cost it is coming into that. So, our objective is that to understand the cost analysis system first, that is the what are the components, how the calculations are made for analysis of the cost for any unit operation. So, drilling is one unit operation, blasting is another unit operation. So, how this cost has to be analyzed, that we will learn in this lecture as well as in the coming 2-3 lectures also we will understand that. Then we will understand the cost analysis for drilling and blasting operation in surface mines, understanding the cost analysis for drilling and blasting operation in underground mines also. There are little bit differences in surface and underground mining, that is basically related to the system. It is not related to the basic of the cost analysis, but the systems are little bit different. So, before doing or coming into the theory of cost analysis, suppose we are considering a problem that a mine has to carry out drilling with 160 diameter rod in sandstone rock mass, okay. And we have already designed the blast, that part is not carried out yet, but the theory is already given to you, the Lange-Fors-Killstrom criteria for designing the blast. So, consider that part is already carried out, and after designing the blast design is considered as the bench height of 10 meter, 12 meter drill holes are drilled, that is 2 meter sub drilling is considered here, and the drilling rate is given 20 meter per hour. So, this is no penetration rate is given. You have already understood that how the drilling rate has to be calculated for a particular operation. So, that is already carried out, and after carrying out that, the drilling rate is given 20 meter per hour. Now, our job is to determine the drilling cost in rupees per meter. Actually, the cost are basically different times defined in different way. So, if we are considering only the drilling, then in general we give the unit of cost for drilling in rupees per meter, whereas suppose you are carrying out some excavation operation etcetera, that time generally we give the cost in terms of rupees per meter cube or rupees per ton, something like that. Similarly, we carry it out for blasting also in rupees per ton. So, but drilling it may be converted to rupees per ton also, but only when we consider the drilling part, that time we consider it in rupees per meter, because you know in every bench blasting etcetera, we have to go for 12 meter drill rod it is given here. So, that includes sub drilling. So, sub drilling basically does not yield any production, but that is essentially required. So, that cost has to be paid. That is why the drilling cost in general is given in rupees per meter. In this problem some data is also given, that is the price of a drill machine is considered at rupees 10 million or rupees 1 crore in Indian unit you can say. Hourly diesel consumption is also given, that is 50 liter. Price of diesel is given as 100 rupees per liter, and bit life, that bit is consumed while you are carrying out drilling is considered as the 1000 meter, and the bit price is considered as 10,000 rupees. So, that means you can consider if you are carrying out 1 meter drilling, that means 10 rupees is already spent on the bit. So, that is already incurred there. So, we will understand how this costing has to be carried out. So, let us first understand how the cost for different unit operation has to be calculated. The costs are basically calculated considering the different cost heads. Okay. So, this is also called cost component. So, first head is the capital cost, that means how much cost basically we are incurred in terms of capital. So, this is one head, we will discuss what is the capital cost at later on, but this cost head basically the different head on which we are basically calculating the cost. If you are trying to relate it with our personal life, say we are having some cost required for our fooding, we need some cost for our living, we need some cost for our clothing. So, these are the different heads which we need to calculate as the cost head while we are calculating the cost of living. So, that is why this cost has to be calculated at different heads for any unit operations, and in general for an engineering operation or technological operation which is carried out in mining or other industries, we divide it in basically these cost heads: capital cost, maintenance cost, operating cost, overhead cost, and if contractual working is carried out, then the contractor profit has to be provided here. So, this is only you have to consider when the particular unit operations is given on outsource. If this operation is given on outsource, then only this contractor's profit has to be considered, otherwise this is not required. So, only if it is the departmental work is carried out, then only calculation of this one will sufficient for analyzing the cost of operations. So, let us understand what is capital cost. Capital cost is basically the cost which we inherit in our cost calculation because of the capital expenditures which we spend initially for procuring the instruments etcetera. So, capital cost represent the capital expenditures required for that particular unit operation. Suppose let us consider that we have procured a machine, say a drill machine or an excavator, okay. But that drill machine will work for a certain life, say 10 years, 15 years or 5 years or so. So, that will serve for that long period, and that is why after that money which we have spent on that will become 0. So, in this problem the way we have given that 1 crore rupees we have spent on the drill machine. If the drill machine is having a life of say 20,000 hours or 50,000 hours, after that drill machine will not operate, it will become a scrap. So, its value will be 0. So, the basically the capital cost is the cost of which we have invested on that particular machine, but after serving a certain period or after serving a certain performance, that machine will become scrap. So, it is basically that 1 crore rupees which we have spent on the drill machine in its whole lifetime. If the machine has drills a particular meterage of hole, then that meterage of hole is basically incurred that capital cost. Okay. So, this capital cost is basically the cost of owning that machine, which we are basically bearing in our head in that unit operations. So, basically capital cost is the cost of procuring the machine or owning that machine, and that is why the cost has to be considered in the unit operations. Okay. That is every time that has to be considered. Say suppose you have procured a say washing machine in your house, and that washing machine having a life of 5 years. In the 5 year span it will say wash 20,000 clothes. So, now that 20,000 clothes will washed by that particular washing machine, which is costing 10,000 rupees. That means, every cloth which is washed in that machine has having a 50 paisa capital cost. So, it is similar to that. That is why the capital cost is basically calculated like in this given in this formula, the price of the machine and the life of the machine. Okay. Or often we consider it is the price of the machine minus the scrap value. If some scrap value is there on the machine by after its life, if you are selling that machine, if you are getting some scrap value on that, then that has to be deducted from the price, and the life of the machine is considered here. Now, the important part is that this how you are defining the life of the machine. This life is basically for engineering equipments are expressed in terms of hour. In general, we basically claim the life is in 10 years, 15 years or something like that, that is the lifespan, but we are having a calculation that we consider in a particular year the machine can be utilized this much number of hours. So, that is the utilization hour we are considering on that machine, and multiplying that with the life which we are considering in terms of year, we are getting this life of machine in hour. So, here we are basically getting the cost with an unit of rupees per hour, where it is the rupees. You have seen this is expressed in terms of a summation sign. This summation sign is basically given. We may require more number of machines for a particular operation, like say for a drilling operation we may need a drill machine. In addition with that, we may require a compressor also. Okay. So, drill machine plus compressor. So, there are two units are operating on that. So, you are basically calculating the capital cost of both. So, that is why it is basically expressing a summation of the machines. For a particular mine, if you are considering the drilling cost or maybe excavating cost, there may be number of drill machines also. In those cases, we have to consider the average of that one. So, that is why we have to consider the sum of all the price of the machines, sum of their life, and considering based on that we have to consider. So, that is if the machine type is same, model same, make same, then one calculation of that rupees per hour is same for all the machines, but if the models are different, then the prices will be different, life of the machine will be different, performance will be different. So, you have to calculate separately for each machine, okay, and that may be a good exercise to find out which machine is better for your particular condition or not. There are many methods in which you have different ways to calculate the capital cost, because we have different ways to calculate the depreciation also. There it is some cases there are different components on the capital cost we consider. These components may be owning cost, that is the capital cost calculated here. We also consider the interest, we also can consider the depreciation here. Okay. So, these three may be considered as a part of the capital cost. Interest is basically considered because we consider that whatever price we have paid for procuring the machine, that is not available with us. Okay. That means, a procurement cost of 1 crore rupees for a drill machine is not readily available with the owner. So, the owner is basically taking the loan from the bank. So, the 1 crore rupees is given by the bank for procuring the machine, and we are calculating this capital cost based on the price of that machine, that is 1 crore, but we have to pay the interest of that 1 crore in every month or every year to the bank. That part is not considered here. So, the interest part is has to be calculated here, and the interest it has to be calculated based on the rate of interest. So, capital cost what we are getting at this place must be multiplied with the rate of interest to get the interest part. So, this is also very important to calculate the interest part, and similar way the depreciation is also often calculated, because depreciation basically gives the amortization of the capital which is basically invested, because it is a claim that the invested capital must be immortal after the life of the mine also, the mining or that particular industry, that capital must retain with the owner. So, the amortization of the capital is basically the concept, that is why the depreciation has to be considered. Okay. So, basically in this formula we have discussed the capital cost is considered for the equipment with substantial life, the small equipments, so which may have a small life, say like a small buses or maybe a small hose pipes, those are not considered as the instrument. The capital cost of equipments are considered which are having substantial life, and the auxiliary machines or a group of machines should be considered in that particular unit operations as the multiple machines. So, this is already discussed that compressor and drill machine has to be considered together. So, any machines are not considered in the capital cost, like say compressor machine which is used for giving the air pressure to the wheels of the mobile equipment, that is not considered as the capital investment, because that life is considered very less and the investment is also very less. Scrap value or salvage value is the post value, and in India it has found that in many cases after the designated life of the equipment, the mine is still continuing of using that particular machine. So, that is the additional life of the machine is basically we are running that machine for the additional life. In that case, if one has to calculate the cost, the scrap value will be considered as the price of the machine. So, after that designated life, we consider the machine if still continuing under operation, in that case we will consider the scrap value is the owning cost of that particular machines. And depreciation one may consider, may not consider. There are different way to calculate the capital cost, and basically this is theoretically has to be considered, and we will solve the problem based on this at a later stage. And for a particular operations, if different models are there, then different cost calculation must be carried out for each model. In many cases, instead of procuring the equipment, we go for the hiring of the equipments. See, in most of the overseas countries, hiring of equipment is a very common matter, because there are big companies available which are carrying out business by hiring the equipments only. So, that is why getting a hired equipment is very easy, but in Indian condition many times we do not have that provision to get the hiring equipment, especially for heavy earth moving machineries, like one may get a dumper of 25 tonner or 40 tonner on hire basis, but getting a 240 tonner dumper on hire basis is a very difficult condition. So, if the machines are on hire basis, in that case capital cost is not considered, but instead of capital cost, hiring cost is considered, and directly that is given in rupees per hour, that is the hiring cost. But while this is considered, the hiring clause which is basically considered between the mining organizations and the equipment hiring organization, that has to be considered. This rupees per hour, this hiring cost may include operating cost, may not include operating cost. So, sometimes this hiring cost is only the capital cost, the operating cost is beared by the mining authority, and those things basically considered, but that has to be, if the hiring equipments are there in the cost analysis, that part must be considered critically during this analysis time. So, hiring cost is coming under the capital cost head in case of hire equipment, and operating cost part has to be checked whether it is in the considerations of the mining part, mining people, or by the hired organization. Now, let us understand what is maintenance cost. Basically, maintenance cost is the cost you need to spend on the equipments for which the capital are basically considered. So, maintenance costs are to be considered for the owning equipments. So, there are two cases in the maintenance cost. One is that the mine is under operation. So, if the mine is under operation, then calculation of maintenance cost is very easy. We will find out how much actually we are spending for maintenance of the equipment. So, how much lubricating oils are given, how much brake oil is given, how many air filters are changed, how many bushings are changed, how much small spares are replaced, how much hoses are replaced, O-rings are replaced, all these things we are calculating there. And basically for the small spares, periodic maintenance requirement, spare requires are the scheduled replacements. Okay. All these are includes in the maintenance cost, and those costs can be easily calculated if the mine is under operation. Okay. But if the mine is under operation, to get this value, one has to consider the cost code system. What is cost code? Cost code is basically a system adopted by the stores, okay, to give the idea to the maintenance people that how much cost is basically spending on a particular machine or maybe particular operation. So, cost code are given to the different machines, different operations like that. Say suppose we have given a cost code for drilling operation, cost code say 400. So, for drilling operation cost code is 400, okay. And there is one machine drilling operations. So, that is given 400 A. There may be the second machine on the drilling, which may be given as the 400 B. So, now when suppose an air filter is given to machine A in the drill machine A, then the air filter price is booked under this 400 A. Now, if some hose pipe is given to the second machine B, then the cost code mentioned or that cost of that particular hose pipe is booked under the code 400 B. So, by this way the actual spares, actual expenses imposed on that particular machine or actually spent on that machine is basically reflected by this cost code system, and that is given as the idea that how much is the maintenance cost is incurred in operating that particular machines. Okay. There are heavy spares are there like say tire, drill bit, drill rod. These are very costly spares. Say price of one dumper tire cost in few lakhs, say 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs like that. So, these are very big cost, but this cost are comes under consumable because these are not included in the maintenance. See drill bit, that cost will come to you only when you will carry out the drilling. If your machine is idle, in that case the drill bit cost, there is no consumption of the drill bit. So, that is why similar to the tire will not be consumed if the vehicle is not running. So, that is why these are considered as the consumables, not in the drill bit. So, basically maintenance cost incurred three part. One is maintenance cost, the actual cost for maintenance, that is the small spares etc. Then manpower cost required for the maintenance. So, that is also there. So, in the cost code system, when the mine is under operation, that time when we follow the cost code system, that time also we book the manpower on that. Suppose say some machine is given a periodical maintenance, that time say 4 person has worked there. So, the salary of that 4 person, say they worked for 2 hours. So, 2 hours salary of that particular 4 person is booked under that particular cost code. So, that the manpower cost may come from that also. So, if the mine is under operation, we have understood how to do that one, that is the actual condition, but often we have to go for cost calculation when the mine is not under operation, we are basically at the planning stage, or maybe sometimes we have to give it a theoretical costing, we have to analyze, maybe we are thinking of giving that to the outsourcing. So, we need to know what could be the possible costing of that particular one. So, considering that we go for a theoretical calculation, their actual mining is not carried out, but we are going for the calculation of the costs. Okay. In those cases, we go for cost calculation on theoretical basis, and there are many approximation techniques where we consider the maintenance cost depending on some other things. So, this was considered maybe on power consumption, maybe on depreciation, maybe on capital cost etc. So, this is felt rational. In fact, I would like to use this concept very often when we are carrying out the theoretical cost calculation. For electrically operated equipment, we consider maintenance cost is the 10% of the capital cost. For diesel equipments, we consider it is the 20% of the capital cost, because diesel operations require some additional spares etc. like air filter, all these things which is not required for the electrical maintenance system. So, that is why these costs are diesel maintenance cost of the diesel equipments are basically considered a little bit higher than the electrical equipments. And apart from that, electrical equipments are having a less breakdown rather to the less breakdown considered to the diesel equipments. Okay. But maintenance cost largely depends on work culture of the organization, maintenance policy, whether you are going for maintenance of say breakdown maintenance system or schedule maintenance system or preventive maintenance system. There are different maintenance systems also. So, what is the organization is following, that is the maintenance policy, depending on that maintenance cost is also changing. Operator quality is very, very important. Suppose if you do not have a good operator, that will basically damage the machine. So, having a good operator with a better salary is always wanted over the rough operator with very low salary. So, that choice, that very, very judicious choice has to be carried out by the mine organizations. Inventory spare availability is also important. Originality of the spares are very, very important. AMC if given, then the maintenance cost comes under AMC. If one can consider the AMC value as the maintenance cost. Efficiency of the maintenance crew is very important, how they are able to detect the fault, how they are good in recovering those faults, those are very, very important. Modernized workshop, type of equipment, technological nitty-gritty. If the foreign equipments are there, then the technology may not be fully known to our maintenance crew, that may be create a difficulty and increase the maintenance cost. Nowadays, in modern system, interactive maintenance system is there, that inbuilt computer system is there in the machine, that will guide the maintenance. Working area condition, that is the road condition for the plying machines, climatic conditions, say even extreme hot weather or humid weather, many machines are not able to operate. So, the machine has to be procured based on the climatic condition also. Let us understand the what is operating cost. Operating cost is basically the cost that incurred only if the machine runs. If the machine is not running, then there is no operating cost. Considering that, basically these operating costs are calculated. This operating cost basically includes the power consumption, consumables comes under that operations, and the manpower that is directly related to that operations. Okay. So, operating cost directly depending on the hour of operation, that means the machine is running, means it is consuming power. So, the time it is running, based on that the power consumption will be there. So, basically based on that the operating costs are calculated. So, let us first start with the power consumption. So, basically this power consumption is the cost which incurred for the power required for running the machine. So, a machine may run with the electrical motors or diesel engines or maybe the pneumatically or hydraulically, but if it is operated by pneumatic or hydraulic, like say jackhammer drill machine, that is operated pneumatically, but the power is required to run the compressor behind that. So, actually the power is electrical or diesel power is basically there for the compressor. So, that main power for which the mine is basically paying, that cost has to be considered. So, in this case, if the pneumatic drill machines are working, basically the power cost is calculated for the compressor, not for the air required in that. If the air is procured based on the price, then only the air price has to be considered. So, basically power cost is the consumption rate of the power by that machine multiplied by the power price. So, suppose if it is electrical machine, then the power cost is the electrical unit consumed by that machine and the unit rate maybe 20 rupees per kilowatt hour or 30 rupees per kilowatt hour, whichever is the commercial rate of the electrical supply, that has to be paid. So, the consumption multiplied by the rate. Same thing is there for the diesel. If the diesel consumption the total diesel consumption by the machine is divided by the machine run hour, that gives us the average diesel consumption rate. So, the average diesel consumption rate and the rate, that is the rupees per liter, is multiplied to get the power cost for a diesel machine. Okay. So, it is very easy for electrical motors, because the motor powers are already available with kilowatt that is available, and load factor is also known. Based on that, we can easily calculate how much kilowatt hour will be consumed, and we can calculate the electrical cost. However, diesel engine, it is maybe difficult. For mines running, we are having the data, the how much diesel is given to that particular machine from that cost code system, and for planning case, it is little bit difficult, because we do not know that how much diesel will be required. So, for that there are different way to calculate it based on the engine size, basically the diesel consumption are consumed. This is a table given in this particular that website is given from where this table is taken, where based on the HP, the how much liter diesel will be consumed per hour. So, that is given, and based on that, say 50 HP is consuming this much, but these are very small quantity. Generally, mine machines are works with very big 300 HP machines, 500 HP machines are operates. So, this table is given up to 1000 HP. So, you can see a 500 HP machine is consuming around 106 liter of diesel, a 350 is 64 liter of diesel, and 1000 is around 230 liters of diesel. This is mentioned as per this particular website. There are other ways of diesel calculation also based on the power of the engine, but we will discuss all these things in the next class. So, we are closing this class. Thank you.